We are going to start with theme number 5 today, wherein we are going to study the Parliament and state legislatures or legislatures in general. Let us first identify the outline, an extremely important part as far as the pre is concerned, and a very standard set forward kind of a questions that are asked as far as the mains are concerned. Okay, so let's start. Layer 1, which is conceptual and factual, and therefore important for the prelims. Layer 2, analytical in nature and therefore important for the means. Now, what is it that we have to understand in this context? First, the presiding officers. First, the presiding officers. Then, a comparative review of the houses. Then an understanding of qualifications and disqualifications. Then procedures parliamentary procedures and passage of laws including budget. Then basics of privileges, and then committees. These are the 6 primary areas that we should be covering for us to be able to understand anything and everything that is needed as far as the pre is concerned. And the mains, very interestingly, will be an application of these 6 basic things that we know. Now, of course, we'll finish all the elements of layer 1, solve all the previous year questions on the basis of what we've studied in layer 1, and then apply layer 1 to layer 2. So here first we will understand the analysis of the speaker, primarily important with respect to the Lok Sabha. Here we will look at a collective parliamentary efficiency review. One second, please. All right. Third, very specifically, analyzing the office of the Rajya Sabha and state legislative councils. From qualifications and disqualifications, we will do a proper analysis of anti-defection law. Parliamentary procedures and passages of laws, including the passage of a bill. This is very procedural in nature, so therefore you are not asked questions from here in the mains exam. The breach of privilege and parliamentary integrity. And here an analysis or a review of the efficacy as far as the committees are concerned. Okay, clear? Now, let me first explain to you what we are not going to be doing here. We are not going to be doing the Representation of People Act in detail here. That is the only thing that we are not going to do here. We will do this as a collective topic under elections and election related reforms. Let me also take you through some of the questions that have been asked in the mains exam for you to understand more clearly as to what your kind of expectations should be. The first thing you have to do is to make sure that you understand every word which is mentioned in the syllabus. Parliament and state legislatures. Parliament and state legislatures, structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers and privileges, and issues out of the structure, the functioning, the way they run their business, powers and privileges. So basically you've just got 4 topics in the mains: structure, functioning, conduct of business, powers and privileges. Now, out of this, there are a very few set of questions that are asked because of a very simple reason. Because your standard arguments almost always remain the same, and there isn't a lot that really happens as far as current affairs is concerned. Now let's look at some of the previous year questions. Okay. All right. 2013, a 10 marker for 200 words. How can the role of individual MPs, has diminished over the years, and as a result, healthy constructive debates are not usually witnessed. How far can this be attributed to anti-defection law, which was legislated but with a different intention? This question is a very simple combination of 2 things. One is, as you know, anti-defection law, and second is about the participation of private members. Now, who are these private members? I will tell you what they are, but to give you a basic idea, anybody who's not a minister and an MP is a private member. Doesn't matter what party they may come from. So, 2 things is to be answered in this context. Now, 2014, a 12.5 marker, again for 200 marks. Let us see what the question was. The powers, privileges and immunities of the Parliament and its members, as envisaged in Article 105 of the Constitution, leave room for a large number of uncodified and unenumerated privileges to continue. Assess the reasons for the absence of legal codification of the parliamentary privileges. How far can this problem be assessed? Again, a simple question on the analysis of parliamentary privileges. Okay. Then in 2017, discuss the role of Public Accounts Committee in establishing the accountability of the government to the people, a subset of parliamentary committees and a direct question on a specific parliamentary committee. 2017, a 15 marker. The Constitution has provisions for holding a joint session of the two houses of the Parliament. Enumerate the occasions when this would normally happen and the occasions when it cannot, with reasons thereof. Now, this question was not a difficult question, but just a very elaborative question. And this is why it became slightly more difficult in the context of it. But this question is nothing but about parliamentary procedures and a comparative review of the houses. Procedures plus the review of the houses. 2018, why do you think the committees are considered to be useful for parliamentary work? Discuss in this context estimates committee. Again, a combination of two parts. First, a general understanding of parliamentary committees and specifically what is the role played by the estimates committee. Then 2019, see 2019 you will find a lot of similarity to the 2013 question. Individual parliamentarians' role as the national lawmaker is on a decline, which in turn has adversely impacted the quality of debates and their outcomes, which more or less is the exact same question as our 2013, but 2013 gave you more of a hint in the question itself, but 2019 basically just is the first part of the 2013 question. Then in 2020 you had a 10 marker. The question was, once a speaker, always a speaker. In this context, once a speaker, always a speaker. Do you think the practice should be adopted to impart objectivity to the office of the Speaker of the Lok Sabha? What could it be its implications for robust functioning of parliamentary business? Which is nothing but the analysis of the office of the Speaker. Very standard points. 2020, Rajya Sabha has been transformed from a useless Stephanie tire to the most useful supporting organ in the past few decades. Highlight the factors as well as the areas in which the transformation could be visible. This is called blowing your own trumpet. They are not asking you how good or bad Rajya Sabha was. They're asking you how good was the Rajya Sabha and why was the Rajya Sabha so good? It's because they were also celebrating their anniversary last year and Venkaiah Naidu had written a bunch of editorials across newspapers. So this is why this question was asked. Okay. So a Rajya Sabha analysis. Now in 2021, this year in the month of January, there were basically very simple kind of questions that were asked. I'll tell you what the 2021 questions were. You will also find them on the drive. So if you just right. Now, this was a question which a lot of people thought is about the parliament, but it is not. To what extent, in your view, the parliament is able to ensure accountability of the executive in India? This is actually a question of separation of powers and checks and balances, which we will do in a great amount of depth. And of course, we'll include parliament as one of the primary elements here in the matter. Okay. Now, apart from this, There was, I think, a question on state legislative councils also this year. Yes, and departmentally, both of your 250 mark words. Explain the constitutional provisions under which legislative councils are established. Review the working and the current status of legislative councils with suitable illustrations. This was asked in the context of the West Bengal elections, wherein the chief minister lost from her constituency, and therefore the Legislative Assembly of Bengal had passed a resolution requesting the parliament to create a legislative council which previously existed in Bengal and then was shut down. They wanted to re-establish a legislative council. Okay, they wanted to re-establish a legislative council. Okay, so this is it, and are we clear with this? Okay, understood? And second, do departmentally related standing committees keep the administration on its toes and inspire reverence for parliamentary control? Evaluate the working of such committees with suitable examples. A direct question on parliamentary committees and how DRSCs keep the administration on its toes and inspire, or basically keep a check on other organs of government, primarily the executive. Anyways, so this is how it is, this is how it should be, and this is how we are going to go about it. Now, once we are done with this, once we have completely finished this and got it done with, we understand that the kind of questions that are asked from the parliament are usually very, very straightforward in nature. They're very predictable questions. There are only a set number of questions that can be asked, and if a question has to be asked, it will be asked from that basket, which means if the questions are expected, then the answers have to be unexpectedly good. Then the content that you give in your mains answers should have data, should have codes, should have arguments, should have perspectives like none other. So that is how you will be able to gain a slightly upper edge over and above your competitors. So we have to always remember this in the context that we are getting into. Okay, now let's start. We'll start with the first part, which is presiding officers. We'll compare them. We've already covered the types of elections and the election matrix in president and governor. We're going to spend some time on the presiding officers and then we'll move to the next. So let us start. We're going to start with presiding officers of the houses. Now, when we study the presiding officers of the houses, this is exactly what we need to do. All right. the presiding officers overlap with the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assembly. I'm sorry, there was a medical emergency that I was getting into. Just give me 10 seconds, please. Okay, right. Sorry. With respect to presiding officers for the Lok Sabha and the state legislative assembly and the union territories with legislatures, these are called the speakers and the deputy speakers. For the Rajya Sabha and the state legislative councils, these are called chairpersons and vice chairpersons. The only basic difference is with Rajya Sabha, the chairperson is a little special. So you've got chairperson Rajya Sabha, who is the vice president of India, and you've got the chairperson of all other state legislative councils. Okay. The chairperson Rajya Sabha is the ex officio Vice President of India. The ex officio Vice President of India. The ex officio Vice President of India. Now, very important. Except for the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, very important. Except for the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, who is also the vice president of India, all other presiding officers must be members of the House. Must be members of the House. This is nothing but the application of rule number 1, which is democratic mandate. See, presiding officers are nothing but the class monitors that we had growing up. We hated them, but they were the heroes that we needed. They were the ones that told us to, be quiet. They were the ones who wrote our names on the board. They were the ones, who initiated disciplinary action against us. So these are what are largely called presiding officers. Now, why must they be members of the House? See, they must be members of the House primarily because if you're not a part of the class, then you have no right. If you're not a part of the class, then you have no right to basically tell the class to keep quiet. Similarly, if you're not a member of the House, then you don't have the right to govern the House, to discipline the House, to take some decisions procedurally on behalf of the House and for the House, which is nothing but democratic mandate. Democratic mandate. Okay, clear? All right. Now let's come to the next parts. See, very simple. We're going to first look at how they are elected. Then we're going to look at how they are removed. And then we'll probably look at some special powers. That is it. Now, a basic confusion a lot of people have is with respect to the Vice President of India and Chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. Now, you must understand that these are conjoint offices and they are an exception under Office of Profit. They are an exception under Office of Profit. Which means when I say that they are conjoint offices, what does this mean? This means that the election and the removal procedure of both of these offices, which is basically the same person, is the same. So when you are removing the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, you are also impeaching the Vice President of India. When you are electing the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, you are also electing the Vice President of India. So you must understand this. So the Vice President of India, once you elect the Vice President of India, you have also elected what is called the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha. And when you are starting to remove the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, you are also removing the Vice President of India. So this is how it works. These are conjoint offices. This doesn't mean that if you're removing the chairperson, but the person continues to be Vice President. No. When you remove either, you remove both because it's the same person. It's the same person. Now, because this is going to happen on the floor of the House and because these are going to essentially be disciplinary bodies, both of them are elected through a simple majority. Both of them are elected through a simple majority. Even the chairpersons of the legislative councils and the vice chairperson of the Rajya Sabha and state legislative councils, they are also elected through a simple majority. They're also elected through a simple majority. We've already covered what these kind of majorities are. Similarly, they are removed through an effective majority. I hope you remember what an effective majority is. Effective majority comes from effective strength. Effective strength is total strength minus death, disqualification and resignation, and that gives you effective strength, and more than half of the effective strength is effective majority. Okay. Now, here also effective majority, which means the only thing special here is how the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha is elected and removed. How the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha is elected and removed. Okay, so let's understand how the chairperson is elected. Okay, let's start. Chairperson of the Rajya Sabha is chosen by both the houses, because you're also choosing the vice president, and the vice president may also have to officiate as the president in certain exceptional conditions. Here, the majority is used only and only in their respective houses. only the Lok Sabha is choosing their speaker, only the Legislative Assembly is choosing their speaker. It's not a collective affair. Here also, respective. Similarly, removal is also by the respective houses. Whereas with the Vice President, it is collective in nature, where both the houses are going to participate. So both the houses participate, and MPs of both the houses participate, and the voting happens with through a simple majority. Now, very interesting. When you're electing the Vice President, okay, when you're electing the Vice President, very important, all MPs and MLAs are voting. MPs which are elected and nominated of Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Here also, both elected and nominated are participating in the election. Here also, both elected and nominated are participating in the election. Now your question would be, sir, you taught us democratic mandate, which said if you don't have the mandate, you are not allowed to participate in an advanced function. What about the democratic mandate here? Remember, when nominated MPs and nominated MLAs were not participating in a presidential election, then why are nominated MPs and nominated MPs participating in a vice presidential election? That is a fundamental question. If nominated MPs are not participating in a presidential election, then why are nominated MPs participating in a vice presidential election? The answer to that is crisp, is clear, and extremely concise. The answer to that is nominated MPs are participating in a presidential election because are participating in a vice presidential election because the vice president is the presiding officer of a house. The job of the vice president is to regulate the conduct of all MPs elected and nominated. And that is why, if the person you are choosing is going to give you disciplinary guidelines, is going to keep a check on you, then no matter who you are, you have the right to choose that person. And you have an implied indirect mandate because you've been chosen on the recommendations of the Council of Ministers given to the President, and through the President, you have been nominated. Okay, so therefore it is justified, and to also a larger extent, all MPs, whether they are nominated or elected, are equal MPs on the floor of the House. Every bill can be introduced by a nominated or an elected MP. It does not matter. Once you're an MP, that means in some form or the other, you have what is called a democratic mandate. But when you're choosing the president, you need a higher democratic mandate, because the president is going to have the powers to legislate, is going to have the powers to shut down state legislatures. These are core parliamentary functions. Legislation, when the president has powers under presidential rule to shut down state legislatures, then in that scenario, what you are basically doing is compromising a parliamentary ecosystem, which is why it is very, very important for you to give them the powers here in vice president, but not in the president. So this is the explanation. Okay, so that is why MPs of both the houses participate, and this is also done through a simple majority. Okay, MPs of both the houses participate, and this is also done through a simple majority. Understood this? Clear? Okay. Now, as far as the removal is concerned, again, very straightforward. In removal, because you're removing the vice president, whose major job, what the Vice President of India really does, is that administers the second house. That means it is really should be beginning from the second house. So in the first setup, the Rajya Sabha through effective majority passes a motion or passes a motion to remove the vice president, then the Lok Sabha also does that on a simple majority. It must start with the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha will require effective majority, then it will go to the Lok Sabha, and the Lok Sabha will require a simple majority. Rajya Sabha will require an effective majority, and Lok Sabha will require a simple majority. This is done by all the members again, elected and nominated. So that is how you're able to maintain a degree of similarity, that you're using effective majority for electing for removing your presiding officers, and simple majority for removing your for electing your presiding officers. Okay, are we clear with this? And for those of you who are wondering, why do you require effective majority? It's because effective majority discounts the number of people who are dead, discounts the number of people who are dead, who have been disqualified, and who have resigned. The number of people who are dead, who have been disqualified, or who have resigned. When you are not an active member of the house, you don't have any locus standi, you don't have any basis to actually question the conduct of the speaker, right? So that is how it works. Clear? Okay. All right. So this is elected, this is removal, and we've sorted this out. Pakka? Okay. Now, very specifically, the only special power lies with the Speaker of the Lok Sabha. Now, the Speaker of the Lok Sabha gets to certify a bill as a money bill. And this has been a matter of debate, because when you certify something as a money bill, you basically give powers to the Lok Sabha, to override the Rajya Sabha in these matters. And very specifically, in an amendment to the when the speaker had done that for the Aadhaar Act, this became a matter of national controversy, and this was challenged, by the way, in the Puttu Swami judgment, which gave you the birth of the right to privacy. Okay, this was what gave the birth to the right to privacy. All right. Okay. Now, it is extremely important to note that in the capacity of the chairperson or the vice chairperson, or the speakers or the deputy speakers, they are not subordinate offices. When the speaker is not available, the deputy speaker presides over. That's how it works. They are not subordinate offices. SLC chairperson, I said no, respective. Clearly written here. Only chairperson Rajya Sabha is collective. Now, this is just the class monitor. Now you have, like how you had, junior class monitors and row monitors and other assembly in charges. Similarly, you have other people in this ecosystem as well. Okay. So let's understand that in the context. See, when we talk about separation of powers, legislature, executive, and judiciary, we understand that the executive also constitutes of the permanent executive. Now here also you have the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and here of course you have the Supreme Court and the High Court, and here you have your elected executive. And in one way, the permanent executive is supposed to assist in the execution of the decisions which are made by the elected executive, which means the need for bureaucracy is absolutely essential for the executive. Similarly, you also have non-judicial staff in the courts. You have your registrars, you have your munshis, you have your filing officers, you have your law clerks, you have your non-law clerks, you have so many non-judicial officers. This is actually called judicial, these are also called court bureaucracy, right? You have stenographers, you have typists, you have dictation people. These are not judges. They are not performing any legal function. But don't you require bureaucracy there? Yes. Similarly, you would also require bureaucracy here to run the house, to manage the house, the administration, the logistics, and so on and so forth. And this is why I must now teach you a larger ecosystem. Okay? For example, if you have ever noticed, okay, the speaker usually sits here. Then you will see a small bench in front, and then over and above the bench will you see people sitting in a circular fashion, right? So this is where the presiding officer sits. I'll show you with a real image also. You will see a bunch of people sitting here, and here. And then you will sit, for example, this is the Lok Sabha, you will see your MPs and MLAs which are sitting here. Okay? Now, usually, your ministers sit in the first few rows towards the center and the right. These are called treasury benches. These are called treasury benches. Majority party and parties supporting the majority party usually sit here. So majority party plus parties supporting majority party, outside support or otherwise or coalition, they all sit here. And the opposition sits here. And the opposition sits here towards the left. This is the historical origin of the words left, center, and right. Today, these are also called political ideologies, that somebody may be a leftist, a rightist, a centrist. Today, political ideologies are, you could be either a leftist, a rightist, a centrist, you could be left of center, you could be right of center. These are basically what are called political ideologies. Okay? And the most amazing people who have won an election on their own, without any party ticket, they won their own, they will sit right at the back. They will sit right at the back. These are called backbencher MPs. These are basically independent MPs. Okay. Now, we are focusing here. This is called the Lok Sabha Secretariat. By the way, they also have exams every year. The syllabus is very similar to UPSC. If you want a backup option, it's a very they've got Lok Sabha Secretariat jobs, they've got Rajya Sabha Secretariat jobs. Both of these are actually very good jobs. Yeah, you have multiple domains, language and security and translation and technology, but very good jobs. Okay, and then you often get transferred to houses of other states also, right? The secretariat can be assisting with each other. Now, this Lok Sabha Secretariat is headed by somebody called the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha. The Secretary General of the Lok Sabha. The Secretary General of the Lok Sabha is the person in charge of the Lok Sabha Secretariat and assists all of them, collectively assist the presiding officer with technical information, with certain procedural clarity, and so that they can define the proceedings of the House. Now, if you simply compare, okay, if you simply compare right now, if you simply compare that, if in the elected executive, the highest civil servant is the cabinet secretary, then here in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, their highest civil servants are secretary generals, equivalent to the rank of a cabinet secretary. Equivalent to the rank of a cabinet secretary. But the difference is, this is a very popular post. Almost everybody knows who the cabinet secretary is, and this is an extremely anonymous post. But on paper, you are as powerful. Your seniority is to the rank of a cabinet secretary, because you're the senior most bureaucracy in the very temple of democracy. Okay. Similarly, at the states, the Secretary General of the Assembly is equivalent to the Chief Secretary of the state. Okay, so they assist the House, they get the House ready, they prepare all the documentation for the proceedings of the House. All of that they get to do. They are the ones who essentially are the executioners of the House. Okay, understood this? Are we clear with this so far? Yeah. Now, I think during Meera Kumar's time, even the Secretary General of the Lok Sabha was a lady officer, which was a very good, which was a very good, I think, move. Prakhar, what do you mean by allocation of seats? That who's going to sit here and who's going to sit here and who's going to sit here? I don't know, and it is not relevant. Sorry. बैठ जाना यार, जगह खाली है तो. कि which specific seat is for which specific MP, this I am not sure. Okay. All right. Done. Completed. Okay. बस इसके ऊपर कुछ है नहीं. Now, if the speaker and the deputy speaker are not available, as a very temporary manner, you keep a panel of speakers and a panel of chairpersons. ये इलेक्ट नहीं होते हैं, ये नॉमिनेट होके रखते हैं हम लोग हाउस में कि दोनों छुट्टी पे चले गए या दोनों की तबीयत खराब हो गई, तो ऐसे. ठीक है, बस यही है. इसके ऊपर प्री में कुछ नहीं आएगा, इतना ही आएगा. I'll just show you. So, प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर्स, डन। खुद बताओ, कुछ मुश्किल लगा इसमें? कुछ मुश्किल लगा? And I am purposefully not giving you article numbers here, because article numbers here are not important, they're important here. आसान ही तो है। अब जो क्वेश्चंस होगा ना, तब तुमको आएंगे मजे। वो ऐसा भारी भारी इंग्लिश में लिखता, द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज ऑफ द स्पीकर्स ऑफिस, ऐसा ये सब कुछ नहीं है। डन, गुड। By the way, we'll have at least a 2.5 3 hour class today, so I'll give you a 5-minute break every 1 hour. You can take a 5-minute break now. I'll keep this on so that in case you want to take some notes down, you can. Ex officio I've already explained. Because you hold office X, yes, only one. Arey, but there is only one special power. There is no other special power. All other officers have the same powers. Anti-defection and ये सब. Respective means only from that house. Collective means both the houses participate. Thank you, Sayan. आगे आगे देखो होता है क्या। ये मेरा फेवरेट टॉपिक है सिंप्लीफिकेशन के लिए। फंडामेंटल एक्ट इज माई फेवरेट टॉपिक फॉर मी टू गिव ज्ञान ऑन लाइफ। दिस इज एज मार्क्सिस्ट गेट्स। Tanshu, I just said, except for chairperson, all other must be a member. ये इतना बड़ा बड़ा लिखा है मैंने इधर, तो क्यों पूछ रहा है मेरे को? लिखा है इधर। Kamla, a treasury bench is where the ministers sit. I will discuss. A speaker's decision on money bill is judicially reviewable. Yes. No, Nishant. No. That has been an issue, right? The deputy speaker of the Lok Sabha has not been elected for the longest time. Is paid salary for two posts or only for one of the two posts? Because it's an exemption, you are paid for both. But because you are the vice president, so emoluments of the vice president can only apply. Abhinav, you can't be a member of the Rajya Sabha. It is an apolitical office. Got to be 35 years of age, be a citizen of India and all that. That's it. Okay. Chaliye. Now we are going to study the comparative review of the houses. We understand that the Lok Sabha and the legislative assemblies are versions of each other, so we can always do them together. Okay, so you've got at the center, by the way, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. Then at the level of the states, and this is extremely important, you've got the state legislative assemblies and you've got the state legislative councils. Okay, now all right, let's start. Parul, I haven't even got to parliamentary procedures, boss. Hold on. Don't jump the gun. We're going to look at the criteria here. So let us start. First, manner of election. We understand that as far as Lok Sabha is concerned, it is a direct election. Similarly, legislative assemblies are also direct elections, whereas Rajya Sabha is an indirect election, and state legislative councils, okay, हाँ निशांत, मैं दिखाता हूँ. State legislative councils are basically an indirect elections, but of a very, very interesting kind, of a very special kind with some direct elements involved. Okay. Now, the second point, the status or the existence. You cannot abolish the Lok Sabha. Very important. Can't be abolished. Similarly, Rajya Sabha also can't be abolished because both of them are collectively tools of parliamentary democracy, which is basic structure. Also, they can only be abolished if you're converting the legislative assembly into a union territory without a legislature. So, can be only if territorial change happens, or only due to territorial changes. Similarly, here there are 2 points to note. First, that if you're converting the state, then of course only due to territorial changes, and they are created by the parliament upon state legislature request, which is done through a special majority 1, and the request is not binding on the parliament. State legislative councils are created by the parliament for the states only if the legislatures of the state want it, and then they request the parliament for it. And just because they have requested it does not necessarily mean that you will be giving it to them, does not necessarily mean that you will be enacting a law for the same. Okay, good. Now, once we understand this, we then understand the tenure. With tenure, your maximum ordinary tenure, maximum usual tenure, is 5 years. This is also true for here. Maximum usual tenure is for 5 years. But when we say that the Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, what does this mean? It basically means all members do not quit at once. All members do not quit at once. This means 1/3 of the members quit every 2 years. So therefore the tenure of each Rajya Sabha MP is 6 years. This is also the same for legislative councils. Same thing. 1/3 of MLCs retire every 2 years, and therefore the tenure is for 6 years. So you get to be a Lok Sabha MP for 5 years, you get to be a Rajya Sabha MP for 6 years. The only difference is every 5 years, all the MPs of the Lok Sabha are going to change, but that's not the case with Rajya Sabha, right? That is not the case with Rajya Sabha. As a house, the Rajya Sabha does not change all at once. There will always be members in the Rajya Sabha over a rotational period. That is why the Rajya Sabha and legislative councils are called permanent houses. That is why they are called permanent houses. Okay? All right. Now, electorate. Who chooses them? Because it is a direct election, citizens choose Lok Sabha and citizens also choose state legislative assembly members. Whereas in the Rajya Sabha, elected MLAs of the specific state. This means, for example, let us say, for example, UP has 10 Rajya Sabha seats. Out of these 10, let us say 5 UP Rajya Sabha MPs are ending their tenure this year. Then UP Assembly will vote and will get 5 more people to replace UP's 5 outgoing MPs from the Rajya Sabha. Okay? The process of a Rajya Sabha election, when we do Rajya Sabha for the mains, I will explain this to you. It's a very simple process, but slightly mathematically complicated, but simple nonetheless. Okay, so that's how it's done. It is also done on a vote value system. Now, with MLCs, it's an extremely varied process. So, let's understand this. As far as legislative councils are concerned, you have a very, very diverse electorate. Some MLCs are chosen by local bodies. Some are chosen by existing MLAs, but existing MLAs cannot contest for MLC elections, because otherwise you will try to take a safe house in the legislative council if you think that your party is going to lose the next election. So existing MLAs, current MLAs. Third, you will have graduates or resident graduates. And fourth, resident TGT teachers. TGT is till 10th grade. TGT is till 10th grade. Okay. So if the total strength of the state legislative assembly could be denoted with the number 1, then 1/3 of it are chosen by local bodies. 1/3 of it are chosen by local bodies. Okay. Clear? Then another 1/3 are chosen by MLAs. Then another 1/12 are chosen by resident graduates. And then another 1/12 are chosen by resident TGTs. Now, this is a very interesting concept. The concept here is that in India, you do not have qualifications to contest elections, but you certainly have qualifications as far as vote is concerned. These qualifications could be in the context of education as well, could be in the case of employment as well. So if you think about it, the irony is this MLC can also be a 5th class pass, a 10th class pass, a 12th class pass, can have any form of education qualification. But the people, 1/12 of the people electing this MLC, this member of Legislative Council, have to themselves be graduate for 3 years. So this is a 3-year resident graduate status, 3-year TGT status, which means if the election is happening in 2022, then you should have graduated in 2019, 2021, 22. Yes, you should have graduated in 2019. Similarly, if the election was happening in 2022, you should have been teaching at a TGT grade till class 10th, till about since 2019. Okay, since 2019. It is also important for you to understand, why does something like this happen? Why have you given, a special voting electorate to graduates and resident graduates? Okay, I understand local bodies and MLAs, because MLAs, you are providing a second deliberative house. Local bodies, because you want local self-government issues to also echo at least in the second chamber of the states for better policies. But why graduates and teachers? This is to represent an informed electorate. And the vision of the makers of the constitution is that the teachers are the noble in society. Unfortunately, today, I am very ashamed of my profession, especially competitive teaching, with the kind of practices that teachers in my industry often resort to. But anyways, so this is how it is. Itna simple hai. Now you have certain nomination criterias. These nomination criterias have been removed from Lok Sabha and legislative councils through a recent constitutional amendment. It used to previously be on the basis of Anglo-Indians, which basically meant European descent. And I can give you full gyan on it, but it's not relevant. There are several very good articles written on it, but there are no nominations anymore, so you don't have to worry about them at all. Okay? As far as nominations here are concerned, you have a total of 12 nominations on the basis of literature, arts, science, and social service. Literature, arts, science, and social service. LAS. You and I are in a class, and you have your nomination criteria here as class. CLASS, and this is 1/6. So 1/6 of the legislative councils are essentially on the basis of class, which is cooperative societies, literature, arts, science, and social service. Cooperative societies, literature, arts, science, and social service. मोहम्मद उमर खान, वेट करिए, मैच लगा के अपनी अकल मत झाड़िए, मैं कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है? सो कहते सर 1/6 मिसिंग है, लिखा ना मैंने अभी 1/6, होल्ड करो भाई, राइट? सो दिस इज हाउ इट इज टू बी डन. ओके, तो ये कॉम्पोजिशन है. If you add 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/6, what you get is the number 1. Okay. Now, Lok Sabha currently has 543 members. All of them are elected and no nominated members. Rajya Sabha has total of 245, out of which 233 are elected, they come from different states, and 12 are nominated. ठीक है. State legislative assemblies, we'll come to that. The strength of state legislative assemblies will always be determined by the parliament, and they have a range here. बहुत ध्यान से देखना. They have a range here, which is between 60 to 500, and you have certain exceptions for states like Sikkim, because if banks are to money, democracy is to population. And the strength of the state legislative council will depend on the strength of the state legislative assembly, wherein you have a minimum strength of 40 and a maximum strength of 1/3 of the state legislative assembly. Maximum. ये सेंटर डिसाइड करता है, ठीक है, सेंटर डिसाइड करता है ये, ठीक है, गुड. नाउ इसको आप नोट कर लीजिए. If you notice carefully, this number 245 is half of the strength of the Lok Sabha, right? It's approximately half of the strength of the Lok Sabha. But the maximum strength of the council can only be 1/3 as that of the assembly. This is nothing but rule number 2, center stronger than the states. कि हमारा सेकेंड हाउस हमारे फर्स्ट हाउस का आधा होगा, but तुम्हारा सेकेंड हाउस will be the maximum strength, will be 1/3 of your first house. Okay, this also has an implication to the deliberative quality as well, because there are huge costs involved, right? Now you can contest from a maximum of 2 Lok Sabha constituencies and at a given point of time. Now we are currently in the 17th Lok Sabha, 2019 to 2024. Now Ryder Cruz has such an important question as a UPSC aspirant. He's asking, sir, what if all Rajya Sabha members want to resign at the same time? अब हम क्या कर सकते हैं? अब ऐसा हो गया तो फिर all will have to change. But that doesn't mean that they are forced to change. That change is happening from them. Here you can't ordinarily be in the Lok Sabha for more than 5 years. समझ में आया? Now, I'll walk you through a very interesting story. See, UPA was the name of the alliance, UPA 1, called the United Progressive Alliance, and it was headed by a party called the Indian National Congress. Now we are currently in the 17th Lok Sabha, which is 2019 onwards. The 16th was 2014 to 2019. The 15th was 2009 to 2014. And the 14th was 2004 to 2009. This is the Lok Sabha we are talking about. This is where UPA 1, then UPA 2, NDA 1, NDA 2. Okay? Now, we understand that for you to be a minister, any kind of a minister, you have to be an MP. and this MP, if not at the time of appointment but within 6 months at least, you have to definitely become an MP, right? Now let's understand this from a larger context. Okay, so let's understand this from a larger context. So let's understand this from a larger context. See, when Manmohan Singh came to power, when United Progressive Alliance won the election, they decided that they will put Manmohan Singh, they wanted to make Manmohan Singh the Prime Minister. But Manmohan Singh was not an MP. And at that time, there was a provision in the Representation of People's Act which said that if you can be an MP from anywhere, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, you can be an MP from anywhere, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So, they decided to make Manmohan Singh a Rajya Sabha MP because the Lok Sabha seats were too tight. It was a coalition and every seat mattered, right? And nobody was willing to give up their seat, and they were not sure if they will actually come back to power in that seat, right? So that is why. Now there was a problem. That time, for you to contest a Rajya Sabha seat from a specific state, you had to be a resident of that state or had to be a domicile of that state. Okay. Now, Manmohan Singh was a resident of Punjab, but there were no empty seats, there were no elections due. The only election which was due at that time was for Assam. The only election that was due was for Assam. Do we understand this? Is this okay? The only election due was that for Assam. But Manmohan Singh was not a resident or a domicile. If you can't beat the law, beat the law. If you can't change the law, change the law. So they changed the Representation of People's Act and said no residency requirement for Rajya Sabha elections. And all political parties agreed, because today or tomorrow everybody is going to get benefit out of here. And today or tomorrow, everybody is going to get some form of leeway out of this. So there were no residency requirements. Manmohan Singh was elected by the Assam Legislative Assembly as a Rajya Sabha MP from Assam, Guwahati. Okay. So since then, you have no residency requirements for Rajya Sabha. You have no residency requirements of a state from Lok Sabha. Obviously, it's a national election. But as far as assemblies is concerned, yes, you need to have a residential requirement. You need to have a residential requirement. You have to be from that state, which is also true for legislative councils as well. आया समझ में? ये क्लियर है? This is only for nominations. लिखा है ना? एक इंटरेस्टिंग बात बताऊं, ये हम आगे यूज करेंगे, बट आई स्टिल टेल यू. So, Lok Sabha is to Rajya Sabha is to 2:1, right? Does everybody agree with this? Lok Sabha is to Rajya Sabha is approximately 2:1. ओ CSAT वाले बच्चों, 2:1 मतलब 2/2, 1/2. So this actually is how, that is why we write 2:1, not 1:2. Yes? Is this correct? So can we इसको और simplify कर देते हैं. Can we say Lok Sabha approximately has twice the number of MPs than Rajya Sabha? Is this correct? Is this absolutely correct? Yes or no? ये एक्चुअली 2:1 को 2/3, 1/3 भी करके लिखते हैं, बट एनीवेज. If this statement is true, you will notice every parliamentary committee which has both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha members will also have twice the number of Lok Sabha MPs than Rajya Sabha MPs. Should to give a choice of candidature, yeah? आप देखना, some committees will have 15 members of the Lok Sabha, 7 from the Rajya Sabha. ये एक बहुत कॉमन नंबर होता है. 21 and 10 ये आपको डिपार्टमेंटली रिलेटेड में ऐसे मिलेगा, पब्लिक अकाउंट्स कमेटी में ऐसे मिलेगा, डिपार्टमेंटली रिलेटेड स्टैंडिंग कमेटीज में ऐसे मिलेगा. Clear? Very good. So, ये हमको समझ में आ गया. So, a comparative review of the houses is done. Khatam. Now we will spend some time on qualifications and disqualifications. और लगे हाथ एंटी डिफेक्शन भी कर ही लेंगे बिकॉज दिस इज वेरी स्पेसिफिक. ये तो once we've covered everything then it makes sense, but this is very specific, so we will then cover qualifications and disqualification and of course anti defection law. ठीक है, ओके, sorted. We're done with the second topic, we're done with the first topic. You can now take a 5 minutes break and we'll continue with the rest. Yes, Namika just dropped me an email. Yes, Abhijit. No, Komal, only once. चलिए, अब पढ़ते हैं क्वालिफिकेशन एंड डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन. यू आर मोस्ट वेलकम लावण्या, यू मोस्ट वेलकम. चलो, एंटी डिफेक्शन इज डैम फन ऑल्सो. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा एनर्जी आना चाहिए. वी विल स्टडी क्वालिफिकेशन एंड डिस्क्वालिफिकेशन. चलिए, नाउ qualifications and disqualifications. Disqualification is like yes, Abhijit, because of special provisions. हाँ, चलो. See, disqualification is like how some of you may have been suspended from school, or you would have been terminated from school or rusticated from school. When you are rusticated from school, are you sent to jail? Are you asked to pay compensation to the school? No. Similarly, here you are just being disqualified from your job. A disqualification has no civil or criminal implication whatsoever. None at all. Okay? अगर आपको फाइन करना है, आपको जेल भेजना है, then the parliament has the powers under immunities, under privileges. कि तुमने थप्पड़ मार दी किसी एमपी को दड़ से करके, या गाली गलौज कर दी, then they can send you to jail, then they can ask you to pay a fine. But if they're removing you from the house, कि हो गया तुम्हारा, जाओ अभी, then do anything else in your life. You want to recontest and come back, you can also do that, no problem at all. But disqualification has no civil or criminal implication. Breach of privileges can. Breach of privilege is suspension. Disqualification is rustication. Clear? So when you are suspended, for example, you planted Diwali chutki bomb and in the toilet, and boys used to do that. The toilet burst. Then you have to pay fine for that toilet. Similarly, you broke a chair in the house, so you have to pay for the chair. That is okay. Suspension is equal to what is called breach of privilege. Rustication is equal to disqualification. It has absolutely no civil or criminal implication whatsoever. Okay, all right, good. So let us look at qualifications. Let's understand क्या है. इसमें ज़्यादा दिमाग नहीं लगाना, कोई यहाँ से कुछ नहीं पूछता है, but basic पता होना चाहिए. It's an age system, right? So Lok Sabha, legislative assemblies, Rajya Sabha and state legislative councils. What do we understand? First, you have to be a citizen, you have to be a citizen, you have to be a citizen, you have to be a citizen. Okay, simple. Any form of citizen is fine. No residency requirement, yes residency requirement, no residency requirement, yes residency requirement. Okay. Third, minimum age. Lok Sabha Assembly 25, add 5 more years of life. तुमने दुनिया 5 साल और देखी है तो तुमको ज्ञान ज़्यादा है. So 30 and 30. That is it. Okay. And for all of these cases, you just have to be a registered voter in any of the constituencies. That's it. Qualifications और कुछ नहीं. Apart from that, You just have to be a registered voter. You should be registered as a voter somewhere, doesn't matter, somewhere. In assemblies and councils, registered voter in the state, in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, you could be registered voter anywhere in the country. That is it. Okay? Nothing beyond this is important. Now comes the fun part. You see, disqualifications are in 3 different places. बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात बोलने जा रहा हूँ. Disqualifications are in 3 different places. First, in the core text of the Constitution. First, in the core text of the Constitution. Second, in the Representation of People's Act 1951. We'll cover this later. And third, yes, exactly, Nishant. And third, very interestingly, in what is called the 10th schedule to the Constitution, which is also the anti-defection law. अब ये broad provisions क्या हैं समझ लेते हैं. In the core text, Article 101, 102 for MP disqualification, Articles I think 190 and 191 for MLA disqualification. ठीक है, यहाँ लिखा हुआ है क्या क्या नहीं हो सकता. बहुत सिंपल है. फर्स्ट, if you are no longer a citizen of India. 2, if you are somebody who is of an unsound mind. 3, if you're somebody who's financially insolvent. Okay, or 4th, who's somebody if you're holding an office of profit which is not exempted. मतलब you can't be an MP and at the same time say I want to be director of ONGC. ऐसा नहीं चलेगा, दोनों में से एक. ठीक है. Now there is no maximum age for anybody. Now we will cover the details of office of profit in a lot of depth later. ठीक है. By the way, we'll come to that in fact later. ठीक है. This is the basic explanation for core text. Okay. The word office of profit is not defined per se anywhere in the Constitution, but there are certain rules, there are certain privileges, there are certain regulations which tell you about it. We'll come to that in a dedicated lecture on office of profit. So don't worry about it. We'll cover this in the review of the Parliament. Now, Representation of People's Act. Representation of People's Act has a bunch of electoral offenses. Okay, has a bunch of electoral, your criminal offenses, your electoral offenses. That corruption, bribery, conflict of interest in awarding contracts, and so on and so forth. This is where you will see a lot of Supreme Court judgments, like for example, the Lily Thomas case, wherein the Supreme Court very bravely decided that any MP or MLA who has been convicted with imprisonment for an X number of years will be banned from elections for 6 years. I will cover this in election reforms later. And इधर बहुत simple है, 4 चीजें नहीं करना, 4 things you can't do. Okay, first, you cannot resign from a political party on whose ticket you won. We understand, right? There are 3 kinds of MPs. First, elected and nominated. And there are 2 kinds of elected MPs, party MPs and independent MPs or MLAs. Independent मतलब हम खुद से लड़के आए, कर लो दुनिया मुट्ठी में. Okay, so you have resigned from the political party which gave you a ticket. जिस थाली में खाया उस थाली में you have made big black hole. So you have betrayed the very party. Okay. Second, you are disobeying. You're disobeying the directions of the political party if you have if you are a party MP. Third, if an independent MP is joining any party, if an independent MP is joining any party, सब मैं बहुत डिटेल में कराऊंगा. If an independent MP is joining any party, and if a nominated MP is joining a party after 6 months. After 6 months. अगर ऐसा कुछ भी कोई करेगा तो उसको हम एंटी डिफेक्शन लॉ के अंडर, which was added to the constitution through the 52nd amendment of 1985, we will remove them. Okay, we will remove them. Now let's answer some basic questions. A lot of this is based on rule number 1. Remember this that we had made? So your BJP basically sits here. Let us say there are two parties and your Congress sits here. Okay. Suppose farm laws are to be voted upon. फार्म लॉस पे वोट आया. अब आर बीजेपी और कांग्रेस एमपीज आर नॉट द मोस्ट लिटरेट पीपल ऑन द प्लेनेट, है ना. तो फॉर एग्जाम्पल वी यूज्ड टू हैव असिस्टेंट मॉनिटर्स, है ना, असिस्टेंट ग्रुप लीडर्स. सो यू हैव असिस्टेंट ग्रुप लीडर्स. दीज आर कॉल्ड विप्स. दीज आर कॉल्ड विप्स. विप का क्या काम है? बेसिकली there is a WhatsApp group of all BJP Lok Sabha MPs. WhatsApp group का नाम है अच्छे दिन. तो विप उसमें सुबह मैसेज लिखेगा. विप विल राइट मैसेज, hey everybody, today 11 o'clock come to house, 12 o'clock we are going to vote on farm laws. I don't care what you think, you will vote yes on it. A whip can be issued for everything. Does not mean it has to be issued for everything. And this is where we'll get into the analysis that this compromises the individuality of MPs as people who are representing. Because an MP has a dual role. An elected MP, a party MP has a dual role. One, you are representing the interests of the constituency, and two, you are also a member of a larger political outfit contributing to national policy making or law making. Now, sometimes they can conflict. तो मन मार के अगर विप इशू हुआ है तो चुपचाप, विप ने बोला 11 बजे आना तो 11 बजे आना. विप ने बोला ऑरेंज कपड़ा पहनना तो ऑरेंज कपड़ा पहनना. Do we understand this? Are we okay with this? So this is exactly how your entire ecosystem works. So you've got the secretariat, you've got the presiding officer, you've got whips. So BJP will have one whip. Each opposition party will have one whip. अब ऐसे एक एग्जाम्पल देता हूँ. आम आदमी पार्टी का लोकसभा में एक ही एमपी है, भगवत मान, है ना. एंड भगवत मान इज द विप एंड द एमपी. तो वह अपने आप को चिट्ठी लिखता है कि डियर भगवत मान, प्लीज वोट नो ऑन फार्म बिल्स. योर सिंसियरली विप भगवत मान. पुट्स इट इन लेफ्ट पॉकेट, टेक्स इट फ्रॉम राइट पॉकेट, पुट्स इट इन लेफ्ट पॉकेट. ओके, डू वी अंडरस्टैंड दिस? This is exactly how it works. Now, so you've got whips, you've got the secretariat, you've got the presiding officer, you've got MPs, and you've got leaders of the house. So here you have leader of government, and here you have leader of opposition. Okay, so the leader of the largest opposition party, इसमें थोड़ा सा ड्रामा हुआ है पहले. Clear on this? It is that simple. So if the Prime Minister is also a MP of this house, then automatically the leader of government becomes the Prime Minister. अगर वो नहीं है तो somebody else will be the leader of government. Okay? If the Prime Minister is a member of the Rajya Sabha, तो वो उधर का leader of government होगा. Here, leader of government will be the Prime Minister, because currently in the 7th Lok Sabha, our honorable Prime Minister is an MP of Lok Sabha. All right, so it is that simple. ठीक है, तो विप तुमको चिट्ठी लिखा, विप बोला, hey, why don't you vote like this? Don't say anything. What are you? You've gone and written editorial. As BJP MP, you've written how BJP is failing federalism. अगले दिन बोलेंगे इधर तेरे को नौकरी मैं दिया, तेरे को टिकट मैं दिया, I give you the power to exist. तो हमारे साथ ही दगा करेगा, ये दोगलापन. So you have to now go. Okay, bye. So disobeying the directions, working against the interest of the party, ये नहीं चलेगा. Now, as an independent MP, see, you had the right to political association. You had the right to join any political party, but you stood in front of your constituency and you gave a very, very emotional speech. You told your constituency that, boss, please understand, my political ideology is that I don't have one. I have no aspirations of living in Lutyens, Delhi in the newly created MP quarters. I want to raise the issues of your constituency, of my constituency, get the parliament to do things that make our constituency better. I want to spend 6 months a year in Delhi attending sessions and 6 months a year within you, amongst you. मैं आपके बीच में रहूँगा, आपका काम करूँगा. अरे हम तो झोला उठा के चल देंगे. Okay, so I am going to be an independent MP. And the people of the constituency have tears in their eyes that this person does not have aspirations to become a minister. This person does not have aspirations to, get to the echelons of power. You want to work with us. You want to serve us. And therefore, okay, and therefore, I will vote for you. So you have become an MP by clearly telling the people you are not going to be a part of any political party. Now you reach the parliament. Now when you reach the parliament, you realize तुमको सामने भी नहीं बिठाएंगे. तुम इधर अपना पीछे बैठेगा, इधर इंडिपेंडेंट एमपी बैठ के दिन भर पबजी खेलेगा, राइट? दिन भर पबजी खेलेगा, दिन भर. विप कैन बी एनीबडी. दिन भर पबजी खेलेगा. देन यू रियलाइज मेरा कोई सुनता ही नहीं है. सो फार्म लॉ डिबेट इज हैपनिंग. यू आर नॉट इवन गिवन एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू स्पीक. यू आर नॉट इवन राइट. ठीक है, you are not even given an opportunity to speak. You're like, sir, excuse me, sir, I have opinion, sir. ठीक है, लगे बैठ उधर. दिख नहीं रहा, बड़े लोग बात कर रहे हैं. क्या कर लेगा तेरे ओपिनियन का? नहीं, क्या कर लेगा बता. What will you do? Sir, nothing, I will not do anything, sir. Sorry, sir. So you feel greedy. You see wave is happening, Modi wave. You tell BJP, excuse me, can I be a part of your party, please? Nobody is playing with me. Nobody is, school में होता था ना, either you're in Eagle gang or you're in Bichu gang. And then there were some people who were in no gang. So in PT period, nobody gave football to them. Monday, Eagle gang played football. Bichu gang played kabaddi. Tuesday, Eagle gang played kabaddi, and Bichu gang played football, right? बट ये जो चैंपियन लोग थे चुपचाप कोने में बैठ के ऐसे खो खो खेलते थे. दो लोग, एक खो 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 खो. सो दे फेल्ट वेरी बैड. सो व्हेन दे फेल्ट वेरी बैड, दे थॉट लेट्स गो एंड जॉइन अ पॉलिटिकल पार्टी, राइट? Yes, sir, एब्सोल्युटली, थैंक यू. सो नो डाउट So because of which you said मैं join करूँगा. I will join a political party. Right? I will join a political party. Right. So I will join a political party. When you join that political party, you have betrayed the trust of the very constituency. The very constituency, you have betrayed your trust. आया समझ में? हुआ क्लियर ये? तो बुरा लगेगा ना? And that is exactly what we are talking about. Similarly, as a nominated MP, say you are nominated in Rajya Sabha now, Literature, Arts, Science and Social Service. By the way, remember that very common, yes. When you met this, remember this very common ad of Nirma, Jaya, Rekha, Sushma or somebody. Sushma, Rekha, Jaya and somebody, Sabki Pasand Nirma, all of them were MPs at a point of time. Okay, now nominated MPs, for example, Sachin Tendulkar. Now Sachin Tendulkar became an MP, everybody knows him as a cricketer, but he was made an MP because he was also a philanthropist, so under social service. Okay, so now as a nominated MP, you haven't exercised your political right to expression. You haven't exercised your political association. You have been made a nominated MP because of your expertise, because of the fact that you are an expert in literature, art, science and social service. आपका भी तो मन है, मन तो मचलता ही है. So you cannot be denied at least once to join a political party. That is why they give you 6 months. कि 6 महीने है, जितना घूमना है, जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टी ट्राई करनी है कर लो, जितना टिंडर में राइट लेफ्ट स्वाइप वो करना है वो कर लो. 6 महीने में यू चूज योर पार्टनर एंड यू टेल अस हु डू यू वांट टू बी विद, इफ यू वांट टू बी विद समबडी. सो दैट इज व्हाई दे गेट 6 months. Okay, 6 months, because the parliament has to meet at least once every 6 months. We'll cover this in procedure. The parliament has to meet once every 6 months. Yes, Hema, Jaya, Rekha or Sushma, सबकी पसंद निर्मा. Do we understand this? ये clear हुआ? ठीक है. Now comes the next part. In a school, there were two kinds of mischief. One, that inside the class, thank you Akash, thank you Adarsh, thank you. So in school, remember, like this is what I used to do. I used to eat the tiffin of everybody else in class. I was a little bit of a mafia. I used to sit at the back and एक साहब अपना टिफिन इधर लाके रखिएगा. I will eat everybody's tiffin in the first 4 periods before lunch. Then in lunch, I will eat my own tiffin. So I would spend half of my day eating, which is why you see my current state of affairs. Now, I am eating food inside the class. So the problem is affecting the class. But if I go outside and eat the food of other classes, if I go eat the food of seniors and juniors, then it becomes a school problem. Right? So similarly, if you notice, when a person resigns from a political party or disobeys directions of the political party, when an independent MP joins or an MLA joins any party, when a nominated MP or an MLA joins any party, what are you doing? MP, MLA, MLC, what you are doing? You are basically affecting the majority of the house. You are affecting the dynamics of the house. And who is the godfather, godmother, godperson of the house? The presiding officer of the house. Which is why the presiding officers Speaker or deputy speaker, chairperson or deputy chairperson, they decide on issues of anti-defection law. They are the ones, because this is an internal house problem. But पैसे ज़्यादा खर्च कर दिया, EMI नहीं निकल रहा है, राइट, और यू आर इन अ डिफिकल्ट मेंटल स्पेस, और जाके तू बाहर मर्डर कर दिया, किसी को किडनैप कर दिया, ये तो हाउस के बाहर करेगा ना, हाउस के अंदर मर्डर करेगा तो अलग प्रॉब्लम है, फिर तो छोड़ ही दो। लेकिन हाउस के अंदर मर्डर नहीं कर सकते ना, कट्टा लेके नहीं जा सकते आप उसमें, राइट, वो BSF वाले CRPF वाले रोक लेंगे वहीं पे। These are activities that usually happen and affect individual MPs or the individual actions outside the house. Now we can't ask the legislature, हमको हम ही से चुरा लो, right? Why will the Lok Sabha vote? Suppose this was a BJP MP who's committed murder, then why will the Lok Sabha vote on removing the BJP MP? अपना ही आदमी कौन निकालेगा? The speaker may come from a specific house. The speaker may come from a specific party. Why will the speaker allow for something like this to happen? You can't ask the elected executive, because the elected executive is a subset of the Lok Sabha. You can't ask the judiciary because of rule number 3, separation of powers. You can't. It's an internal house issue. It is absolutely an internal house issue. So who is at this level, is impartial, is apolitical, is supposed to be, above all of this? The president. So for the parliament, the president decides. For the legislatures, the governor decides, because they're supposed to be impartial. Which means, for disqualification on the basis of core text and representation of People's Act, the president and the governor decide upon these issues, respectively, for parliament and legislatures. But for anti-defection law, the speakers, the presiding officers decide on these. And once they have decided, then you can bring everything to the judiciary and challenge it. Then you can bring everything to the judiciary and challenge it. देखो ऐसे मेरे को नहीं निकालना चाहिए था, इसको गलत काम किया, एक चीज़। Then after the decision has been made, because if you get into this process before the decision has been made, then separation of powers will be violated. Okay, it would be violated. बस प्री के लिए इसके ऊपर कुछ नहीं है, जेन्युइनली, ठीक है, understood. Some genius students will ask, sir, what if the speaker commits any of this? Then it is in the anti-defection rules, in the law, that the house will elect somebody else to just handle the defection proceedings against the speaker. ठीक है, इसको हम डिटेल में करेंगे. We'll look at political mergers and how that is allowed and not allowed, the procedures and the effect of it. But इतना बेसिक बहुत है. आया समझ में? कितना आसान है यार. What is the difficulty here? Nothing. इसमें मैं बढ़िया सा 2-3 जजमेंट की, होटो जोलोहान, रवि नायक, डिफेक्शन के डेटा, सब सुंदर तैयार करके आया है. मैं ऐसा पढ़ाएगा, मैं टेंशन नहीं है. बट दिस इज मोर देन इनफ. ठीक है, ओके, इजी. See, humor doesn't have to be offensive, and humor doesn't have to be derogatory. The best humor is self-deprecatory humor, and humor must also be correlative, right? That's also very important. ठीक है, understood. Okay. Bas. Thank you, Varun. The tough part of polity is over. Now is the fun part of polity. वो जान निकलती है फंडामेंटल राइट तक, इसके बाद तो सब ड्रामा है, ठीक है। ओके, एक्सीलेंट, डन।